And before we get into the nitty gritty of school marketing, I want to show you a few case studies from schools that are using our system. This is Patricia from Fort McMurray Montessori. Like most school leaders, she was seeing her enrollment numbers declining year after year. Word of mouth just wasn't having the same effect. And she thought that she should be able to learn how to do all this marketing on her own. And obviously, she's plenty smart enough to do that. But after getting nowhere for a number of months, she realized that running a school doesn't really allow her to have enough time to learn how to even get started with it, let alone really get good at it so that, her resources are being used in an efficient way. She signed up with us in 2017, and we got her to full capacity within 6 months with 40 new families. And she's been working with us ever since. And since then, actually, she's opened up 2 more locations and filled them with families using our system. And this is Kiva Hampton. She actually holds our record for top performing campaign launch. She signed up with us, and within 3 weeks of launching her campaign with our system, she had 18 new families enrolled. Here's the core concept behind our solution. If you need more students, you need to prioritize marketing. And number 2, if you build a good marketing system, it will increase enrollment inquiries, which on its own adds a lot of administration busy work. So you need to automate as much of this additional busy work as possible so it doesn't hurt other critical operations at your school. And number 3, this is not something you should try to figure out on your own. It takes hundreds of hours just to learn the basics of digital marketing and software tools, let alone how to employ these tools strategically so you don't waste all the money you spend building and running the marketing campaign. Why is school marketing a problem? It used to be not an issue for the industry. Just have a good school. Word of mouth will keep you nice and full with a nice waiting list. But if you take a look at the graph on the left here, you'll see that there's 25% more private schools in the US than there was 25 years ago. And that is growing. And at the same time, the average family is having half the number of children that they used to. So these 2 trends are making a more competitive landscape for private schools to find new families. There's just too many options. And to exacerbate the problem, the average age of a school administrator is 56 years old, whereas the average age of a new parent is 30 years old. So 20 years ago, these 2 demographics had the same communication behavior and expectations. But today, they are very different, right? And every year, the people running the schools are getting older and older. So I'm going to say something that might surprise you. But contrary to what most people think, it's a myth that branding helps you get new families. Branding does not help you grow your school. The only type of marketing you should be investing in is called lead generation marketing. And you might be wondering what the difference is. So I'm going to show you the difference, but I want you to know it's enormous. So I'm going to take a step back and give you some marketing theory basics here. The way that any business should choose their marketing strategy is by aligning it with the way their customers make a purchasing decision. This is true whether you're the biggest consumer brand in the world, like Coca-Cola, or a small brick and mortar private school. So let's take a look at how Coca-Cola customers make a purchasing decision. First of all, Coca-Cola is hands down the most recognizable brand in the world. Could you ever imagine forgetting about Coca-Cola or that they exist? But their marketing budget is over $7 billion a year, and they do nothing but branding. So why do they do that? When someone buys a bottle of Coke, it's a pretty small and inconsequential decision. They're likely standing in front of a wall of 50 different beverage options, and Coca-Cola wants them to spot their red logo amongst the other 50 colors and logos and reach for a Coke. So Coca-Cola has to literally interrupt you all day long with ads that include cute animals and polar bears or Santa Claus on TV, before movies, on the radio with their jingles. So you're more likely to spend $1 or $2 buying a Coke rather than a Pepsi. Now let's contrast that with how your customers, meaning parents, when they decide to become part of your school community. Your customers are making one of the biggest decisions of their lives, right? It's up there with who am I going to marry, where am I going to live, and what school am I going to enroll my children into? So as we all know, for parents to decide if they're going to send their children to your school, they have to go through many steps to make that decision. They have to contact you, schedule a meeting, make room in their calendars, remember to show up, maybe take the day off work and get a babysitter. They have to get in their car and drive over. But they are willing to do all of that because this is a huge decision with very large implications. They have to decide if they're going to pay you, thousands of dollars and give you the keys to their children's future. So let me ask you, when a prospective parent goes through all of this effort to come in and meet you at the school, and when they recognize they've found the right place for them or their family, do you think it mattered to them what your logo looked like? Do you think it mattered to them what colors are on your website? Does it even matter what the name of your school is? None of those things are why they decide to become part of your community. They are really inconsequential in that decision. And here's Mythbuster number 2. So the myth is that your website should be designed to sell your school. One of the most common mistakes we see is that school websites are designed for parents to gather enough information to make a decision from the website itself as to whether this is the right school for them to be a part of. The problem is that people can't gather decision-making information without coming into the school to meet you. That is the only way they can actually make the decision properly, because it takes meeting you face-to-face, experiencing the school with all of their senses. This decision can't be made from a website, an email, a video, or a phone call. It certainly can't be made properly. So your website is not there to sell your school. It's there to sell prospective parents on taking the next step in the process, which is usually a face-to-face meeting. Does that make sense? So I'm going to show you how you should be using your website. But first, I'm going to show you the results that you can expect when you use your website the right way. Okay, and here's a case study I'm going to show you from one of our clients, Rising Scholar Montessori. So before working with us, they were making all the common mistakes that I've talked about. And the result was they were not getting any inquiries aside from word of mouth, which were just not enough to keep their school full. On their main website, they had many long paragraphs about their education philosophy and all the very specific details about their programs and their pricing, all this decision-making information. But unfortunately, it was turning good prospective parents away rather than leading them to book a tour. And after we set up their enrollment marketing system, they started getting 30 inquiries per month. So let's take a look at the system that we built for them. It starts with the Facebook ad campaign that they built with our coaching program. And when parents clicked on the ad, they're taken to a landing page where they filled out an inquiry form. Once they submitted the form, they were automatically redirected over to an automated tour booking system. What this means is the admin of the school no longer has to spend time communicating with parents until they actually show up for a tour. And this is critical for running a school efficiently, because really until parents show up for a tour, you have enrolled families that are paying tuition and you have staff that you are responsible to lead. And let's be honest, you probably don't have enough time as it is just for them. Does this make sense? Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly how we got them from 0 to 30 inquiries per month. I'm going to break it down for you very specifically here. So make sure you got your ready to take notes. The first thing we need to do is ensure that the ads will get engagement from your ideal target prospective parents. So in this case study, it's parents. The best way to write ads that attract your ideal prospective parents is to learn how they would naturally speak about the values and results that they are looking for from a school. Then we use that language in your ads and website. So the easiest way to learn this is to identify the parents you already have at your school and ask them questions which are designed to elicit responses about how they benefit from your school. Does that make more sense rather than assuming you know how they think? The second critical element is setting up a campaign performance tracking system. When we first started working with Rising Scholar Montessori, they had no idea how much they needed to budget for marketing. They didn't know that because they had no idea how much it cost them to generate an inquiry. I always ask schools how much they're spending per inquiry, and they never know. If you are spending money on ads and don't know how much you are spending per result, then stop those ads immediately and don't start ads again until you have a proper tracking system. One thing that is great about Facebook ads is that if your system is set up correctly, it will report to you exactly which inquiries came from which ads and exactly how much you are spending per inquiry. And as I'll show you in a few minutes, that puts you in a position to know exactly how much you need to budget for marketing later on. Lastly, you need to have a campaign optimization strategy. There are 3 separate areas of testing, and you have to test them one at a time in a specific sequence. First, you have to test the creative, meaning what the ad says and how it looks. Then you test the various targeting options to see which gets your ads in front of the right parents. And then you test the landing page design to figure out how to get the highest number of parents who click on your ad to also book a tour. How well you do this determines the success of your campaign. You will usually start seeing leads come in right away. But the reason why Facebook ads are so much better than print ads is because it's easy to improve the performance of a campaign by over 400% in a matter of days. And now we're going to move on to Mythbuster number 3. The myth is that you should follow up with prospective parents annually. The best way to impress prospective parents and build the right foundation of trust is to show them that you are well organized and professional. At this stage of the relationship with prospects, this is the most critical and important element to them, whether they even recognize it or not. Right? They're not looking for a personal touch at this initial stage because that's not relevant to them until they come in and meet you in person. The analogy I like to use when I talk about this is dating for marriage, right? If you think about how large of a decision this is, right, to enroll a child in your school, it's really big, right? It's up there with the most important things you'll do in your life. Who am I going to marry? Where am I going to live? What am I going to do for a career? Where am I going to, put my children for their future? So when this 28-year-old, 30-year-old mom is checking out schools, it's like she's going on first dates, right? Because we're talking about people that are not coming from a word of mouth referral, who are 98% sold before they even meet you. Right? These folks that are coming from Facebook ads don't have that kind of credibility built up yet. So she's not looking for a relationship. She just wants to figure out who she wants to maybe go on a second date with. And in this regard, the tour is like the second date or the meeting or the face-to-face, whatever you want to call it. Does that make sense? So here's another thing about marketing that most people don't realize. Marketing is just a process of building trust and credibility with people until there's enough there between you and the prospect that they decide to cut out the other options and go on the journey with you rather than somebody else. And the bigger a decision is, the more time and effort is necessary to build enough trust and credibility. Now, the way you build trust with this 30-year-old mom is to be clear and concise and businesslike. And of course, they need to believe that, the school is run by warm and loving people. But first, they need to know that you are a well-run organization, right? As that's step number 1. Because remember, these aren't word-of-mouth referrals. So until these parents are ready to go on really the second date, right, which is coming in for a face-to-face meeting, your communication should be completely standardized. Your emails and phone conversations should be more or less identical to everybody. I mean, they can be somewhat personalized. It can say, hi, Johnny, or hi, Bob, or hi, Susie. But you don't want to come off like you spent a half an hour writing this gushing, warm and fuzzy email to them, because that would be weird. It's a little too early, right? That's how you build trust with them at this initial inquiry stage, so that they're more likely to show up for your tour. And then when they come in and meet you face to face, you be yourself, right? And start building the relationship like you would with anybody, because that's the right time for it. Does that make sense? So I'm going to show you how an automated admissions process or inquiry process works. But before I do that, I want to show you the results that you can expect from using a system like that properly. So at Rising Scholar Montessori, they were doing everything the old school sort of conventional way, manually communicating and organizing every step along the way of moving a prospect parent from the point of interest to enrollment. Lots of manual emails, lots of paper forms, lots of data entry into multiple redundant databases. So now what they have is a simple dashboard that has a list that's easy to manage and track where everyone is in the process. The system's working in the background, handling the emails and the reminders and the form entries. And they have one place to go and see the status of each parent that is currently going through the process. And here's another important thing to consider. If you turn on a good ad campaign, but don't have an efficient system that catches all the inquiries and follows up with them, it's likely there will be a scenario when you get pulled away from the office, when those inquiries that you're paying for start to fall through the cracks. And that's not only a waste of money, but when you don't follow up with inquiries, it can put the school in an unprofessional light. I've heard from more than one school where the school director had to go into the classroom or just couldn't follow up with the inquiries. And, just they fell through the cracks. Somebody didn't get followed up with. And that person went on to Facebook and left a negative review about the school. Now, that might not be the kind of parent you want in the school in any event, but, negative reviews can hurt you from gaining other great prospective families, right? So it's something you want to avoid if possible. So when we work with a school, we custom design the inquiry management system. So it automates the whole process that takes an interested parent from the point of initially becoming aware of the school to the point where they show up for the tour. This is the exact part of the process that really falls apart for most schools. I also want to clarify that you can use this system with all of your inquiries, whether they're phone inquiries, or walk-in, or organic traffic from your website. But the numbers I'm going to show you here are a result of Facebook's leads generated for the Rising Scholars Montessori during this case study. So it's based off $1,000 being spent on the ads, and they were getting $10 per inquiry. So that means 100 people hit the landing page and filled out the inquiry form, giving the school their contact information. Then 10% of them, or 10, self-booked a tour. And if they didn't do that right away, the system sent them a series of emails inviting them to come back to the site and book a tour. So out of the 10 that did book the tour, 7 of them actually showed up to the tour, and the other 3 canceled. And a lot of schools have told us that parents come in expressing appreciation for having reminders because they would have forgotten. They know they're automated, and that is what helps them see the school as a professional organization, just like they experience with dentists and doctors when they schedule appointments there. Now, there's still 90 people that filled out the inquiry form but have not yet booked a tour. So the school would run monthly open houses, and that was also managed through our system. And before each open house, the system would send automated invitations to everyone who inquired but had not yet booked a tour. So over the next few months, they got another 20% of the 90 inquiries to sign up for an open house, and half of those folks showed up to the open house, and they had a 70% success rate from the open houses to enrollment. So the school spent $1,000 and got 12 students at a cost of $83 per student. And now, whenever they need more students, they know they just have to drop $83 times however many students they need into the Facebook campaign and flip the switch. It's kind of like a water faucet at that point. So this is the kind of marketing system every school should have. All businesses should have it, really. I mean, we do too. So just to summarize things here, however, you go about building your marketing team, these are the three main things that you need to do. Number one, you need to build targeted Facebook ads that communicate the values that your ideal prospective parents are looking for in the language they would use to talk about them. Number two, you need to standardize the way you follow up with inquiries so that you appear businesslike and professional, which results in more parents coming in for tours and meetings. And number three, you want to use a digital system that automates this whole process so you can track exactly how much you're spending per enrollment and create hours of margin in your day to focus on doing what you love.